Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesdays with TFE. This is our 79th live show since we started almost a year ago, last May. Our show for March 27th, 2018. It's a beautiful sunny day here in the marina in San Francisco, the Marina District at the Beach Street Yacht Club, but it is equally a sad day with the loss in the Volvo Ocean Race of Mr. John Fisher from the SCALLYWAG team. I didn't know the gentleman, but everyone who did speaks very highly of him as just one of the great, nice guys in the sport. And it's a very tragically sad day for not only his friends and family, but for everyone on the SCALLYWAG team and everybody connected with the Volvo Ocean Race and indeed our sport. Julia's here. Julia Vedekant, I get your camera tipped down just a bit much, our coordinating producer. Thank you, Julia, for again joining us. And to all of you from all around the world who have joined, we're going to cover today I'll go back to the display here, and we're going to cover the Volvo Ocean Race tragedy, as we mentioned, and John Fisher, a little bit in detail about him. John Fisher would have been 48 this September, and of course give you an America's Cup date, as we always do. And there's a fair bit of AC news, but first let's turn to the news from the Volvo Ocean Race and the tragic loss, as we mentioned at the top of the show, of John Fisher from yesterday, who was declared lost at sea. John Fisher, 1970, born in 70, and lost here yesterday in the Volvo Ocean Race, about 1,400 miles west of Cape Horn, when he was washed overboard in a tragic accident aboard SCALLYWAG. I've covered that extensively on the Sailing Illustrated website in the last 24 hours that we've been following this closely when I first got word yesterday. And as usual, we had the news and had it early. Tried not to get ahead of the news. It's very difficult in these circumstances, and I'm confident that we've done a good job. And a lot of help from Peter Rush, who is the PR maven. Not only he has been for the America's Cup for years, we've done several campaigns together, but Peter helped us piece together the story, as have many others, some of you who are watching, because the sources of information that some of us have are not just the official sources. We don't just cut and paste press releases, but we try to bring you the insider news, as does, I know, Richard Gladwell from Sail World, with whom I've been speaking overnight, and sources actually in Washington, D.C., with the close to the federal government here, because as you probably know, most national governments have these search and rescue facilities that all coordinate together. They all work together. And there are teams that when there's an airplane crash, these teams get spun up. They get put on notice, if actually put into service. And there are maritime teams, and there are sailors on some of these maritime teams, including here in the U.S., and I want to thank a couple of those sailors who are also Facebook friends and sailing friends who've been helping us with the details of all of this tragedy, this tragic accident in the Volvo Ocean Race that we covered from the day there was the moment there was the breaking news that we were first notified, which was some 6 hours after apparently the Volvo Ocean Race HQ was notified from the yacht when they pushed the MOB signal on the yacht. And then we announced last night that it had been called off when our government sources told us this. And then later on, before Volvo acknowledged that, there was the statement issued before I went to bed last night here about midnight on the West Coast. Very nice statement, which we're going to read to you in a moment. It's by way of really an obit by Mr. Lee, the owner and sponsor of the team of Sun Hung Kai SCALLYWAG. with whom Mr. Fisher has been sailing, and Skipper David Witt for many years on Mr. Lee's Maxie. And then we were going to play now the video that I ran this morning on the website. They put up a couple good videos. It's the first time we've seen President Richard Brisius from Sweden, the new president of the Volvo Ocean Race. And on their morning show this morning, the Volvo Ocean Race's daily, it's a daily morning show, daily show, they call it. Both Mr. Brisius spoke, as did the race director, Phil Lawrence. And I want to go now to that video. And it's a bit long, but let's have a look at it and a listen.
You join us today from Volvo Ocean Race headquarters in Alicante, where earlier this morning, Richard Brisius, Volvo Ocean Race president, released a statement detailing tragic circumstances during leg 7.
So I'm very saddened to let you know that we have probably lost one of our crew members in the Volvo Ocean Race, John Fisher. Yesterday we were informed by the SCALLYWAG sailing team that they had a man overboard situation, and they immediately started a search and rescue operation and carried this out under very difficult circumstances with big waves, big winds and cold conditions. And the Maritime Rescue Coordination Center also activated a search operation together with race control here, and the ship has been diverted to the area. It's over 1 day away. But after several hours of searching, the crew on SCALLYWAG decided to abandon their search operation. And this is, of course, a terribly sad moment for all of us. And first and foremost, our thoughts are with John Fisher's family and with the crew members on board Sunhunkai SCALLYWAG.
Sunhunkai SCALLYWAG were approximately 1,400 miles west of Cape Horn in gale-force conditions, which put them approximately 200 miles upwind of the rest of the fleet. At the time, the sea state was around 6 meters, and Sunhunkai SCALLYWAG were heading northeast, running on port jibe, heading away from the ice exclusion zone following several days of intense racing. All the fleet have been contending with heavy winds and rough sea state, well known for this part of the world. I'm joined now in race control in Alicante by Phil Lawrence, race director for the Volvo Ocean Race. Phil, talk us through what happened.
Well, what we know now is that at approximately 1300 UTC yesterday, SHK SCALLYWAG was around 1400 miles from Cape Horn and about 200 miles behind the main fleet, sailing downwind in strong conditions, maybe 35 to 40 knots and 6 meter seas, when crew member John Fisher went overboard. The crew immediately turned the boat round, started to sail slowly upwind and commenced a search pattern to look for John.
And as the crew and the team were responding to that incident, what was happening here in race control to assist?
Well, race control monitor the boats all the time. They saw the SHK SCALLYWAG stop and turn round. We could tell from the telemetry that the rig was up and the sails were all okay, so we knew it was probably a man overboard situation. In that situation, we don't immediately contact the boat because we know the sailors are totally preoccupied in trying to rescue the man overboard. So we give them some time to get that before we start talking to them. In fact, they sent us an email at 1340 hours to notify us, and then we activated all the marine rescue authorities.
Are any specific details known about what caused John Fisher to go into the water?
We don't have that information at the moment. We will get it when we get a chance to interview the crew. As you can imagine, they're very, very shocked, very distressed. Our total focus at the moment is getting the boat safely to Chile. They are in bad weather conditions. Race control is sorting out a routing for them that will keep them safe and get them to a port on the Chile coast.
Now, at the time of the incident, none of the other teams in the Volvo Ocean Race were diverted back to help. Can you explain why?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the other teams were some 200 miles ahead, downwind, very, very strong gale force winds and very large seas. If we turn the fleet around to go back, we'd have placed those boats in danger. They'd have been going upwind into huge seas and a worsening sea state. And also, it would have been very slow. It would have taken them at least 24 hours to get back to the scene.
Do we know anything at this time about the safety equipment that John Fisher was wearing?
Every sailor in the Volvo Ocean Race is fully equipped with a wide range of safety equipment, a survival suit, life jacket, harness, personal locator beacons, strobe lights, and we understand but haven't confirmed yet that John was wearing his safety equipment.
Well, we understand that Sungai Scallywag have had to leave the area. Can you fill us in as to what their intentions are now? What's their next steps?
So the main focus now is to get the boat safely to the Chilean coast, into a port in Chile. They're still in very difficult sea conditions. Race Control are supporting them all of the way, planning a safe routing for them, keeping them updated and monitoring their progress.
And the other teams on the water at the moment, what's been the communication between Race Control, where we are now, and the other sailors?
Well, the other teams are also in very difficult conditions, gale force winds, approaching Cape Horn, so they have a lot on at the moment. After this incident yesterday, we sent them a short notice notifying them of what had happened. And this morning, we notified them that sadly John had not been found.
All right, well, thank you, Phil, for taking the time to talk to us. A very difficult day for everybody at the Volvo Ocean Race and fans of the race all the way around the world. And I'm sure I speak to everybody watching when I say that our thoughts are with John Fisher's friends and family at this time. The 6 other boats in the Volvo Ocean Race fleet are making their way eastward. While Team Brunel is still the most easterly boat, the other teams are only 50 miles behind. Weather conditions remain challenging and Race Control is focused on getting the fleet safely round Cape Horn, approximately 900 miles ahead.
Indeed, safety is the key word there, because the weather is deteriorating. It's getting windier and rougher as the boats approach the Cape Horn, and one of the reasons that Scallywag is not going to the Cape is because they're so far behind the fleet, and the fleet is maybe going to get around the Cape, or so the weather prognosticators are saying. Prognosticators, not procrastinators, but the weather forecasters are saying that it is going to be very windy and rough indeed around the Cape Horn, and even more so after the fleet gets around it. So they're really hoping they get around the Horn sooner than later. And there was probably no way for Scallywag to make it without encountering the horrific weather that is forecast. Hence, as you heard in that report, they are, as my sister would say, beating cheeks for the west coast of South America, for Chile, or the Chilean coast. To a port that, as of a couple hours ago, had not yet been determined, or at least had not been made public. This is the last photo that we're aware that was taken of Mr. Fisher. There's the onboard report of the OBR for Scallywag, Mr. Conrad Frost, has done a terrific job, as have all the OBRs, and we're going to show you some footage from Dongfang, actually incredible footage here in a moment. But just to say a few words about Mr. Fisher, he was born in Great Britain. He moved to Adelaide. He's been living in Australia with his wife and 2 kids for some time. And he was born in September of 1970. So, as I mentioned earlier, he would have been 48 in September. Was born in the UK in Southampton from a sailing family. He's obviously a Brit. He has already sailed legs 1, 2, 3, 4, but he did not sail down to Auckland from Hong Kong. He took that leg off. Actually, that was the previous leg, Melbourne up, and he did sail from Hong Kong down to Auckland, and is now, or was, sadly, on this leg 7 from Auckland to Itajaí in Brazil, and he sailed in the import races and so on. Currently, his family is living in Adelaide, Australia. He is a long-term member of Ragamuffin and the Scallywag super yacht Maxi Cruise, and has plenty of big boat experience, but notably this is his first Volvo Ocean Race, and that is indeed the case for a lot of sailors who are experiencing these horrific conditions now in, this is not the Southern Ocean, this is the Southern Pacific Ocean now off the west coast of South America. As they head toward the rounding, they have to leave, obviously, Cape Horn to port and then sail up the coast. It's still about 3,000 miles away, I think, to Itajaí, Julia, where you and, we've mentioned before, you and your late husband, Conrad, who was a ship captain. Right. So you've been sometimes to apparently to Itajaí. And let's look at this video now taken by the OBR for Brunel from his drone in 30 knots of breeze, perhaps more. And you ask yourself, how did he take this video? Well, I'm going to go to it. Let's just take to it because there is no sound. But look at these conditions. And Brunel's leading, and cleverly, unlike we understand most of the other teams, they have reefed their main. It's kind of a strange setup, but watch as the bow berries coming off these huge waves. Boat stops, the water comes flying over the bow. These very, very wet conditions in very, very wet boats. And you wonder, how do they get these drone shots in this much breeze? Well, the drone, you can't fly it upwind in this much breeze. You know, it might go 5 knots, and if it's being blown 35 knots downwind, it's going to make negative 30 knots. But if you put it up and then are sailing downwind, the drone can get these incredible images and indeed video. These are the conditions that Scallywag would have been facing. And as Phil Lawrence, the race director, said, to get the fleet, who are already 200 miles ahead of Scallywag. Scallywag's had some problems. They did a couple of, at least one, maybe more unplanned jibes, or what some people call a Chinese jibe, and understandable in these conditions. If there's any humor in all this, it's that this, I guess these, not an albatross, I think it's a petrel, flying with the drone. You know, they probably have, that petrel's probably never seen a drone before. So a sad, very sad set of circumstances for not only his family, Mr. Fisher's family and friends, and the crewmates, the teammates, shipmates of Mr. Fisher of John Fisher on Scallywag, but everyone connected with the Volvo Ocean Race and indeed our sport. I'm sure your hearts and prayers go out to the family, as do ours here at Sailing Illustrated. One more video. This video is from on board Dongfang. This has audio, so I'll close my trap here for a minute. Watch the spectacular conditions, please, from the masthead camera and the cameras down on the deck, as well as the OBR on Dongfang.
Looking for the other computers, the boat speed, and also the last position report, and also the next 24 hours what we're going to do. And looks is around 4 to 6 hours we have driving, and then yeah, tonight will be the busy night. It's not too far to the Cape Horn. We arrive at the 29th, so go fast.
Tough conditions, and bear in mind that the sea and water temperature, or the air and water temperature, sea temperature, are just above freezing. They're only 3 or 4 degrees centigrade above freezing, and you're in this condition, 30 knots and 8-meter seas. You know, call that, 20 some odd foot seas, and it's brutal. It's brutal. So, and let's just pray that all the rest of the fleet, the other 6 boats, first of all, that Scallywag gets to the Chilean coast intact and going through this very tough storm, and that the rest of the fleet gets around the Horn safely and up to Itajaí. But they've all signed up for this. This is what they all wanted to do. I think it's tough, probably tougher going for some of the newbies than they ever imagined, but I admire them all enormously. And without going into the details, I've collected a few. I think I'm 90% sure of some of the other stuff that may have gone on, but let's leave that for another time, for another edition of Tuesdays with TFE, or a special report in the meantime. This on the screen now is the statement issued last night before I went to bed here about midnight on the West Coast. Very nice statement by Mr. Lee Sung Huang, who is the owner and sponsor of Scallywag. And I want to go in tight now on what he said and read it, because this is the best we've seen, I think, from anybody. We are devastated by the news involving our crew member John Fisher following a man overboard incident early on Monday UTC. And this was in the dark of night, by the way, where they were local time. Skipper David Whitty and the Scallywag crew have been battling extremely treacherous conditions in the Southern Ocean, and this tragedy is heartbreaking. The crew did everything they could to recover John, leading an extensive search and rescue operation in stormy conditions. Now, with the forecast worsening and night falling, the team has had to make the difficult decision to head for landfall 1,200 nautical miles away from South America. Over our long passages, I have come to know Fish well. Despite the dangers of the sport he loved his sailing. He is one of our own, a long-standing member of the team. He is a great and experienced sailor, the finest human being, and a true scallywag. Our thoughts and prayers are with John's family and the crew at this most difficult time, and we are working with Volvo Ocean Race to provide all the support we can. Our focus now is getting the boat and crew to safe harbor. Well said indeed. And once again, our hearts and prayers go out to Mr. Fisher's family, John Fisher, 1970 to 2018. May he rest in peace. Okay, let me stop there and welcome all of you who are here. Our next topic is going to be the America's Cup. Chris Gruby, Julia Vedekind, of course, Betsy Altman Barrow. Actually, we've got a lot of people, more than north of 50 on a live show. We have, again, we'll have 1,000 plus, maybe closer to 2,000 watching replays over the next 24 to 36 hours. We thank all of you for your support, continuing support. Sign up to the website if you haven't already to get the automatic emails when we do a post. A lot of people signed up, actually, this week. We probably had a couple dozen sign-ups just in the last few days. And if you care to contribute, we appreciate that, too, because we are trying to do this on a shoestring without too many sponsors or advertisers, and we do appreciate it. Paul Homchick, Summer Green, Peter Jorgensen, our new friend, George Bonello Dupuy, who's in Malta, saying hello from Malta. He has stayed up where it's at least 10:30 now, I think, local time, 22:30. J. Michael Kiss, Commodore Pfaff. Hello, Commodore Richard Pfaff here in San Francisco. Ali D. Nass out on the East Coast. Richard Gladwell is watching. Again, Richard, thanks for coming on the show live last week and for all your input and guidance. He's a real veteran. And we should wish Richard a happy birthday. I think yesterday, was it, Richard? You can comment. I think yesterday was your 66th birthday, if I remember well. Happy birthday to you. Greg Newman, hello to you down in Newport Beach. Clark Chapin, indeed a sad day. Clark, the Commodore of my home yacht club in Ann Arbor, near Ann Arbor, Michigan. A longtime sailor, great guy, Clark Chapin. Travis Meyer, Tom Weaver. Hello, Tom Weaver. Another longtime friend, Cup and other major. I can't remember if he's done the Volvo. Roger Beebe, Susan Watson Kenny down in Newport Beach. Our sailing community is a close-knit family, Susan says, Susan Kenny. We all feel this loss so very sad. Well said, Susan. Rick Hayes, hello to you. Bernie Wilson, the esteemed AP writer down in San Diego, who also got the news out yesterday pretty early. Bill O'Donnell, Wayne Schreck up in Park City, Utah. He's a skier and a hockey player, but tunes in and is a major supporter. We thank you, Wayne Schreck, for your support of Sailing Illustrated monthly. Alfredo Partigli, our friend here in the Bay Area. James Lynn, Jay Hanfield III, who's become very active in making a lot of comments. Thanks, Jay. Natasha Santi from Rome. Natasha, who was my cohort, my colleague in doing live shows during the America's Cup 2007, I think it was. And she's a lot of fun to do shows with and was my co-host for the prize givings and morning shows and so on. Hello to you, Natasha. Tasha. Stephen Ross, Peter Houston, Luca Bontempelli, who's a journalist in Italy, another great guy, long-term Fern, Robert Bentz down in Newport Beach, Chris Bretschker, a co-founder of Sailing Illustrated. Chris, hello to you. And Mr. Ben Stefano Ambrosio Morelli. Stefano Morelli, welcome to you. Janice Davis, my mother, another true and loyal friend. Ian Trotter, Rob Clay, Clancy Solway. Rob Clay saying, yes, it's a sad, sad day. Stephen Ross said, this is very sad. 2 deaths in the race so far, including the Vestas incident. Has extreme sailing gone too far? Sending slab side way overpowered and being pushed way too hard to unsafe conditions in the Southern Ocean is just stupid. Well, that's Stephen's opinion, not necessarily mine or Sailing Illustrated's. Volvo Ocean Race organization lawyers are going to have a lot of work soon. I'm not so sure about that. I think people sign up for what they know are going to be tough conditions. I think Volvo generally does a very good job of trying to keep the race safe, of trying to look ahead for everybody, and we'll see. There are some problems. There are some things that need to be dealt with, no question, and no doubt they will. My mom says, unbelievable. Well, it is believable. And remember, SCALLYWAG has already, sorry I have this graphic up for the America's Cup when we're talking about the Volvo. I guess I could back up to this photo of Mr. Fisher and his memory since we're talking about all this. In his memory. Don Lunabos is watching, but remember, as I was saying, there's already been another MOB on SCALLYWAG during, was it the last leg or the leg to Melbourne? I don't know if it was Melbourne, Hong Kong, or if it was even on their way to Melbourne, but a newbie, a first-timer in the Volvo Ocean Race, went overboard in relatively light air, flat water conditions. In fact, it was light air, flat water, off of SCALLYWAG, and they were able to turn around and pick him up, I think, in 7 or 8 minutes. By the way, there are reports that SCALLYWAG did not have their AIS, their ship tracking and locator system, and also will locate personal beacons, was not on at the time because they had, apparently the system had gotten wiped out. So there's a lot to be learned. There are some problems that probably could have helped alleviate the situation, but we don't want to get too involved in that until we get the official word from Volvo down the road. Don Lunabos saying sad news. John Fraser is watching. Michael Roth. Alan McGarry. Alan, we need to get you on when it's convenient for you to talk about Canada's Cup. He is the chairman of that committee for Royal Canadian Yacht Club and are making some smart decisions, in my humble opinion. Julie Martin, hello to you. Phil Keister, another colleague, former colleague in America's Cup teams. Clark Chapin, I'm reminded of the lyrics of Gordon Lightfoot. Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours? You know what song that is from? Clark will put that on here. Right, Clark? Does anyone else know what song that's from? About a ship that goes across Lake Superior? Does that help anybody? And sinks? I think that's right, isn't it, Clark? Well, we'll see if anybody knows. Patricia Wagner, Paul Mello, Philip Friedman down in San Diego. Sandeep Sander, another longtime friend, former Oracle, maybe still is an Oracle consultant, in Dinamark. He's got an Indian name, but he is living in Denmark, has for a long time. Great sailor. Dick Anderson, good day from across the bay. Woody Carr, hello to you, Woody. My mom wants to know, Julia, how do you spell Itajaí? And we have worked on that pronunciation. It's I-T-A-J-A-I with an accent, right, Julia? An accent. You're on the air here. Oh, there you go. Yes. Itajaí. Itajaí, and we know that's the pronunciation. Michael Roth out in Honolulu. Rich Nowland. Hello, Richard from Ann Arbor, Michigan, a hockey coach. Longtime friend, was the best man at my wedding, and I was the best man at one of his kids' weddings. Indeed. Dick Anderson, a mere child. I guess he's talking about Richard Gladwell and his birthday. Thanks, Tom, for your wonderful and classy comments. And terrible loss of John Fisher here on the screen. It is, and this is other people. It's a dangerous sport, and other people are lost overboard. But this guy was, I didn't know him personally. We may have met in passing, but I had a friend, let me emote a bit, I had a friend who was with John, didn't know him, but was in Auckland at the Volvo stopover, and his kids were there, and this guy went on to Scallywag, and John was there demonstrating all the stuff for the kids, and our Facebook friend sent me some pictures, which I have declined to use, thank you. But by all accounts, he was a great ambassador, not only a great sailor, obviously a great sailor, but a great ambassador for the sport, which makes the tragic loss all that more sad. We need more people like John in the sport, and I hope all of you watching will honor our loss, his family's loss, by rethinking how we all go about our sport and promoting. Stefano Ambrosio Morelli, thank you. Ciao. Dick Anderson. Oh, come on, Hong Kong finish. I don't know what that means, Dick. Sandeep Sander saying we need to focus on how to improve safety from the Optimist up to the round the world races. Yes, indeed. Borgalari is saying to Hong Kong, I think that's in reference to when Mr. Goff, who was the crew member who went overboard in the previously on Scallywag. Thanks, Bora Gulari, one of our Olympians, one of the best sailors in this country. Proud to say he is a Michigander, a Detroit boy. And Bora is our top Olympic candidate, I think it's fair to say, in the NACRA 17 for this country. And after the Olympics, don't be surprised if Bora turns up with an America's Cup team or so. I don't hear that in my earphone, but I hear that here and there. Glenn McCarthy from Chicago, a longtime great sailing family and contributors, leaders in the sport. Glenn McCarthy. Dick Anderson. Edmund Maurice Fitzgerald. I can't remember the exact name of the song, but the Edmund Fitzgerald was the name of the ship. Well done, Dick. No surprise that he would know that. Did my mom. I'm getting the wreck, Clark Chapin says, of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And, of course, it's about the Lake Superior up in north of Michigan, south of Canada, which is a famously rough body of water, especially in the fall and the winter before it freezes. The wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Hello, Tom. Nice job on reporting sad news today. Thank Innie Auza. Peter McDonald is watching down in Newport Beach. Hello, Peter. We want to get Peter on here to talk about the very cool initiative that he and others down in Newport Beach are doing, as well as and this relates to Volvo and big boats, but Storm Trisel is also doing a youth big boat initiative and a safety initiative, safety at sea, and so all good. J. Michael Kiss also got the answer, Edmund Fitzgerald. How did Maurice get in there? That's a good question. Gitchagumi, as the Indians call Superior. Wayne Schreck, who's another Michigan boy, our friend and Sailing Illustrated supporter. Yes, that's a line in the song, and that's what the Native Americans, the Indians in that part of the country, called Lake Superior, Gitchagumi. Thank you, Jan Davis. Susie Mattoon Hawkins, another Michigander, another member of our little club, Portage Yacht Clubs, Duncan Small, and Stingray. It's been said if. I'm not sure what that means. Stingray up in Seattle. Did I get all those, Julie? Did I miss any? I think I got those, didn't I? We even have a mic on Julia today.
Yeah, Glenn McCarthy said if OSHA ever saw sailboats, not a single sailboat would ever be able to leave the dock.
God forbid that's all we need is OSHA to come. Glenn McCarthy, thanks for the comment, but if OSHA were to come get involved in policing sailing, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. That's just what we need. I think the Volvo teams and the fitness of the teams and the fitness of the boats is pretty amazing. Yes, it's a rough, tough race. Is it? If I were running the Volvo Ocean Race, it's not the way I'd run it. I know John Sangmeister, with whom I spoke this morning, Julia would agree. And anyway, tragic day. Enough is enough on this. We will be thinking about John for a long time. John Fisher died at age 47, doing what he loves to do, and he will, by all accounts, be missed by his, obviously his family, but his many friends in our sport. Okay, now on to the Cup, on to the America's Cup. This week, the America's Cup 75 rule is due out by the end of this week, the end of this month. And one hears there's a bit of a struggle going on getting the words right, getting it down on paper. I'm confident nonetheless that Patrizio Bertelli, representing the Challenge of Record and his design team, and Grant Dalton, of course, representing Emirates Team New Zealand, that the two of them are getting this right. It's not easy. Again, as having been involved in rewriting or writing from scratch the class rules in every class since the 12-meter days, the revision to the 12-meter rule in the 1980s, I was actually chairman of that bloody technical committee for the 12-meter revision after the 83 Cup. But these guys have a lot on. They're running their teams, running their businesses, and Patrizio, of course, is the CEO of Prada, which is having quite good results of late. They're listed on the Hong Kong Exchange, if memory serves. I know it's the Hong Kong Exchange. So they are promising that the class rule will still be out at the end of this week, and I don't know if Richard Gladwell has any more news. He's on. Keith Brash, Britt Ward designed these Volvo Ocean Race 65s. He, with his team at the Far Yacht Design in Annapolis. Britt has so far declined my regular invite. He's an long-time friend. We've done several Cup campaigns together too, and he has so far declined, Britt, to come on the show, but I hope you will. Maybe we'll have to wait till after the Volvo is over, but I know he has some firm views about these boats. One of the questions which keeps coming up is, were the boats purposely designed to have water coming over the deck so they look good on TV? I mean, obviously you could have built the boats with more freeboard forward, higher bows, more of a cabin top, rooftop. And Britt will have some views on that. Indeed, John Sangmeister has some views on that, and even Stan Honey, who says these boats are very wet. And however, Dirk de Ritter, Cheese, tells me this morning that they're actually drier than the Volvo 70s, the previous edition, and gives Britt Ward and Far Yacht Design some credit. Here we are back on the Volvo, but it's the topic of the day. Okay, America's Cup news. In addition to the class rule, New York Yacht Club announced today that the name of their syndicate, which was Bellamente Quantum Racing, BMQR, which is a mouthful and hard to remember, but the actual name now of the syndicate is going to be American Magic, the team, and the name of the yacht, presumably, will also be American Magic. Commodore Phil Lotz, who I think has done a terrific job, he's in his second year as Commodore, second of 2 years. In a statement today, he said that this new American Magic is built from the names of the first boat to win the Cup, namely America, and the first to defend, namely Magic, in 1870. It's a name that truly captures the spirit of our campaign to create a team and boat that will allow us to win the Cup and develop the next generation of high-caliber American sailors and designers that will help us defend the Cup in future. Okay, good sentiments. This is an exciting time for American yachting and the New York Yacht Club. After a 15-year hiatus, we are looking forward to a return to sailing's greatest competition and to bringing the Cup home to the U.S. and to our club, where, as you all know, we previously defended it 24 times over a period of 126 years. And that's modest, because they really held the Cup for 132 years. Since that's from 1870, this 24 times defense, 126 years. But it was 132 years from 1851 that they held the Cup, including up to the loss in 1983 to the Aussies and Australia too. Under the leadership, the Commodore says, Commodore Phil Lott says, Hapfouth, Doug DeVos, Roger Penske, who we announced some time ago, had joined as a principal in the syndicate, and of course their executive director and sailing team leader Terry Hutchinson. We firmly believe American Magic is the right team to take on this challenge, and that our time is now. I don't know what you think of the logo. I like it. When I first saw it this morning, obviously it's an eagle. The symbol of American military and other prowess. And the star, and obviously New York Yacht Club and American Magic. It looked to me at first like it was something out of Bill Koch's 1992 campaign, and I don't know what you all think. I like the logo, though. Do you like it, Julia? You're happy with it? I am, too.
It has motion to it.
It does have motion. It has power, and we'll be seeing, obviously, a lot more of that. Now, the boats, America, the boat that was designed and built for that famous race around the Isle of Wight in 1851. This is a painting of America by Vincent Del Piano, and it's a fairly recent painting. Mr. Del Piano is a marine painter for over 25 years. He was born in Boston and is a resident of the Boston area until recently he moved up to Maine, to Vienna, Maine. But he is still alive. He was born in 1939, if memory serves. Physicist, engineer. Is that your year, Julia?
Yes, a vintage year.
Julia, do that again. She put her hand up and said it's a vintage year, 1939. And Mr. Piano was a Renaissance man, obviously, participated in the American space program in the 60s as an electro-optical systems analyst and a laser physicist. I'm talking about a painter, but it's a cool painting. I mean, let's back it up here and get rid of that lower third. And it's a fairly recent painting. So he's back as an artist and still alive and kicking in Maine, Julia, like you are alive and kicking here in San Francisco. Maybe we should check to see if he has a spousal. The Sailing Illustrateds could be their first, what's the name of that online? Tinder. We could become Tinder. Chris Bretschker, if you're still watching, take a note. Maybe we have. Okay, Julia says stop. The other part of that is the Yacht Magic, and this is the Yacht Magic here in the foreground, shown leading the yacht Sylvie, which is the little one in the back, and then the yacht, that's Sylvie, and America here. This is the 1870 Defense off of, I think, Staten Island in the first defense of the America's Cup, when, remember, the Brits had put their entire fleet out against the Yacht America. I think there were 13, from memory, 13 British yachts that raced against the Yacht America, and Yacht America won against all comers. And therefore, New York thought that was only fair to do the same. So in the 1870 defense, they put out their fleet, which included 17 schooners, 16 American, started against the yacht. Who was the defender? Cambria was the challenger, rather, from England. So this was quite a fleet and quite a scene. Never quite seen anything like this, and the shores were lined with spectators and yada yada. 1870. The Yacht America also raced, as we mentioned. That's her here. Let me go in close on this for you. And she was raced by a crew from the U.S. Navy, and America had been refurbished by the Navy for the race. Madeline was also racing in this race. The yacht Madeline was then chosen and successfully defended the America's Cup in 1876 against the Canadian challenger Countess of Dufferin. The Canadian challengers were not auspicious. In fact, so inauspicious that New York Yacht Club changed the rules and said that you had to be from the yacht club that had, for its annual regatta, on ocean water courses on an arm of the sea. And that knocked out, at least at the time, the Canadians who were coming down and challenging, and New York Yacht Club had to put up the money and the boat and run a regatta, and then they didn't do very well, these so-called Great Lakes boats. You'll ask the question about how did Chicago Yacht Club challenge in the 87 Cup. It's a story for another time. But Magic is listed as the owner, hence the new, let me go back to it, the logo, American Magic, named after those first two yachts, America and Magic. Excuse me, I need a cough switch on my microphone. In other America's Cup news, Ben Ainslie, headline today in the Auckland Herald, Ainslie in hunt for cash to fulfill America's Cup dream. When he's not sailing, he's dialing for dollars. No surprise. These Cup campaigns are expensive. The budgets are, again, north of $100 million, probably $130, $140 million. And Ben, who has been saying, well, we're fully funded by Land Rover and by our other sponsors, maybe that's not 100% true, as he is giving interviews about needing to raise more money, which helps get him in front of the press. Okay, perhaps the biggest news of the week in the America's Cup is that the America's Cup venue has been confirmed for 2021 in Auckland. Really, the news was that the team base arrangement, which we have been saying for months, this event would always be in Auckland. The team basing thing would get sorted out, one plan or another. And you heard Richard Gladwell, and I made polite fun of him last week. I said, Richard, we have to bet on this. You know it's going to be in Auckland. And he protested even as recently as yesterday, saying, not necessarily true, or 2 days ago perhaps. There was a press release drafted. They were going to take it to Italy because they couldn't get agreement, but now they have. And there's a meeting tomorrow, but it's pro forma between the minister and the Auckland City Council and the Emirates Team New Zealand, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. And in a nutshell, let me go in close on this first and back that title off. Can I back that title off? There's a venue confirmed. There is the, I look like Commodore R.C. Keefe with his slides last week at the Wednesday Live. Let me go in close on that. We are. And that is the arrangement. You really can't see from this slide because it's a low-res slide, and it was the best I could find online. They haven't sent me, hey, Emirates Team New Zealand, please send me a high-res slide, or Richard Gladwell if you have one. Long story short, this plan, which was put forward by Emirates Team New Zealand, to their credit, they will not now have to extend the so-called Halsey Street Pier. This was the old basing here for the Cup in 2000-2003. Emirates Team New Zealand is going into what's called the Event Center here on the pier. So they've got big facilities and plenty of dockage either side for super yachts, for their team boats. They're in here out of the way. This is where the base club was during the 2003 Cup. Yes, 03. This presumably is Luna Rossa. There's space out here for one big team, also inside the viaduct basin, as that was called. And then the other teams, there's space for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, or 2 big teams, over on what's called the Wynyard Point, Wynyard Wharf, the tank farm that nobody likes. But there's no way, as I said last week, that they were going to remediate, get rid of these tanks in the remaining time. And that has seemed to come to fruition. Build a little breakwater out here, yada, yada, yada. So what we've been saying all along, there was no chance this cup was going to go to Italy. They'd figure it out sooner or later. We didn't even cover all the machinations back and forth. Richard Gladwell's done a nice job of keeping us posted. In fact, Richard is saying, meeting tomorrow is the governing body of Auckland Council only, no minister, unless he starts communicating by text like he did during the meeting last time. Can you imagine the Minister for Economic Development, I think that's his title, call it our Secretary of Commerce, texting with the city council by, saying, hey, excuse me, can't do that, we got to do this. It's faster. Well, they're pretty modern in New Zealand. Maybe Washington, maybe we need the government of New Zealand, Richard, to come up here and clean up the swamp in Washington, D.C. Clark Chapin, like most racing activities, if you give them an unlimited budget, they will exceed it, or they'll still exceed it. My mom wants to know if there's any prints of that painting, and presumably she means that one of either Magic & Co. or of America. Sounds like she's looking for a late birthday present or maybe an early Christmas present. We'll keep that in mind, Mom. So this breakthrough plan for the team basing has assured that the venue for America's Cup 2021, AC36 as it's known, will be in Auckland. Okay, that pretty well wraps it up for us, unless there's any other comments. Or Julie, did I miss anything? I see Michael Daniker has joined. We still have over 50 viewers, which is, we think that's very nice. Live viewers. It's tough for people to watch during the day here in the U.S. It's late at night in Europe. People are working. People have to work. John Sangmeister, Dennis St. Ange, hello to all of you. Curtis Adam, I watched an interview of Mr. Penske after an IndyCar race where he mentioned his interest in the Cup. It's cool to see a true racing fan involved. Nice point, Curtis. Thank you. Mark Dowdy says, almost looks like a phoenix. Also, he's referring to the New York Yacht Club logo. It does look a little bit like a phoenix rising. Maybe there's some of that. Maybe that's part of the plan, because New York Yacht Club, who obviously held the Cup for a long, long time, then lost it and hasn't won it back in 2 subsequent attempts, but probably has a good chance of doing so in the next one. David Warren Ray. David Ray. Now, here's a guy who is a senior serious New York Yacht Club member, longtime friend, and owns one of the most famous, in fact, I think it's the best yachting establishment, restaurant, bar in the world. These other websites do these, frankly, croutonic, what's the best yachting bar, and it's to get advertising, it's to get viewers from... Look at, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, the best yachting bar is the Sky Bar or the Candy Store or the Boom Boom Room, 3 different bars, at the Clark Cookhouse on Bannister's Wharf in New Zealand, owned by our longtime friend David Ray. He's not paying for this advertisement, but he could. Well, he could. He could indeed. He could afford to buy all of us, Julie. He could, the studios, the townhouse, and a super guy, super nice guy, low-key unassuming. Many of you have been in the America's Cup room at Clark Cookhouse, which is a venue for private dining that has been occupied by a few of us on this show. A few of you tuned into this show more than once. Okay, any other comments? Dick Anderson, thank you. Charlie Dana's logo. Yeah, Dick Anderson, good point. Somebody else made that point this morning. Actually, John Sangmeister said that this New York Yacht Club logo looks a bit like the Newport Shipyard logo in Newport, Rhode Island. I should have included that in here. I should have a browser, and we should have Julia working on a computer. We should plug her computer in and cut live. Rather than you monitoring the live feed, you could be working the computer. Maybe we'll have to hook you up to do it, and then I could take to your computer screen. I could do that, I think. Jay Hanfield says, I'm excited to see the New York Yacht Club back in the mix. I don't think Newport could host, but let's try and win it before we worry about that. Let me tell you, Jay Hanfield, Newport, Rhode Island could host it beautifully, as did San Diego, as did a lot of other venues, and especially San Francisco. And if Newport has the chance to host it, and certainly they would if New York wins, Newport will come alive like we haven't seen it since at least the Volvo stopover 2 years ago, and is coming up again here shortly in May. And Brad Reed and Sail Newport and everyone involved in the Volvo stopover showed once again what a magnificent venue Newport, Rhode Island is for yachting. Jay Hanfield says, amen, Tom. I'm not sure it was to that last comment, but he's saying the best bar ever. Yes, Jay, thank you for that. John Sangmeisters, something we mortals aspire to. I wonder, what's that? Being like David Ray, maybe. John spent some time on Bannister's Wharf, America's Cup veteran, with David Ray and his great restaurant. Leonard Takahashi, our last shout-out, and we're going to wrap this turkey up. Leonard Takahashi, a very fine young match racing sailor from Japanese ethnicity, but he lives and sails at the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron in Auckland. He sailed in the Gov Cup and in the World Youth Match Racing last year. We got to know him. He's coming back for the Ficker Cup, which is coming up here in a couple weeks, and that is the qualifier, the winner of which will qualify for a Congressional Cup, a berth in the Congressional Cup. But guess who Leonard and the others entered have to race against? The New York Yacht Club's team, speaking of Bellamente Quantum Racing, or now American Magic, because Dean Barker is steering for New York Yacht Club with the irrepressible and esteemed Terry Hutchinson calling tactics. So, Leonard, you got your work cut out for you. Good luck. Neil Kennefick is watching. Wayne Schreck, go blue. I could bring myself, I guess, to saying that only two colleges has ever put teams in the Final Four of basketball and the Frozen Four of ice hockey. Only two colleges have done that in teams in the same year. Michigan State, I hate to mention them, but Michigan State did so in 2001. They were the last college to do that, and now the University of Michigan has done so this year. Best wishes to their hockey team who play Friday, Sunday, and to their basketball, Friday for sure, and maybe if they get into the finals, Sunday, and then to the basketball team who plays Saturday, and if they win over Loyola, then they go on to the championship game Monday night, this coming Monday. And both the Michigan teams, both the hockey and are playing Catholic universities. Loyola of Chicago, and the hockey team, Julia, is playing Notre Dame. So it's the Catholics against the rest of us, I guess. Okay. I probably offended Peter Houston. The American Magic with a Kiwi driver. Got it. Well, Dean Barker has not yet been confirmed as the skipper or helmsman. Terry will be the skipper, no, almost certainly, skipper, tactician. And whether Dean is also the driver remains to be seen. Probably will be. I think Peter's probably right. But I think you're, with this nationality rule, going to see a lot of Americans on the American team, a lot of Kiwis on the Kiwi team and so forth. I think the rule is good. And we'll talk. Mason Sheen, hello to you. Don Lunabos, go Terry, motivate the Dino. Neil Kennefick, FaceTime over the weekend. FaceTime. Neil maybe wants to do a FaceTime. Okay, I'm happy to do FaceTime. By the way, FaceTime works so much better, as we saw last week, than Skype when you're doing one of these shows. We learn every week a little bit more. Once again today, Chris Bretschker, if you're still watching, we have a 100% stream integrity. We have dropped 0 frames at 30 frames a second, north of 4,000 kilobits for those of you who are techies, and we're very proud of our soon to go. I think we'll go to YouTube. I think we'll start streaming on YouTube Live, and we'll for sure put our videos over there because YouTube is like Instagram for videos. It's just easier to find your videos, to go to them when they're live, than to people have trouble on Facebook, including for St. Francis. It's not hard, folks. All you have to do is Google Sailing Illustrated Facebook, and up on the very first reply, whether it's Bing or Google or Tell Me Who, Yahoo search, up comes our Facebook page. And then you go find the live video. It's very easy. Same for tomorrow's yachting luncheon, Wednesday yachting luncheon that we will live stream for St. Francis at 12:30 Pacific. It's about an hour show, hour and 10-minute show each week, and we're getting lots of visitors live because the shows, frankly, are pretty interesting. And as far as I know, St. Francis is the only club in the country doing this. Tomorrow's guest, let me go in tight here, is a famous female sailor, Jocelyn Nash, famous at least here on the Bay, a pioneer and a legendary sailor who won the Mallory Cup, which used to be known as the Men's Championship. And she crewed for another local hero, for our, I think he's going to put a photo up here behind us, Jimmy DeWitt, the artist here, Richmond Yacht Club, and not a photo, a painting. Jim DeWitt of Richmond Yacht Club and St. Francis Yacht Club. We've got some other DeWitts here in the Beach Street Yacht Club, as you know, Julia. Julia's the Commodore. And she has sailed 110s. She won the 110 Internationals back in '63, I think, crewing. But she has sailed everything from Mercuries to Maxis, and the 89-year-old Jocelyn still competes in 10 to 20 races every year. In her words, I didn't want, look at the last sentence here, I didn't want to be like the other wives who made sandwiches on the boat and cooked spaghetti at the yacht club. I can't wait to, I've not met her, I don't think. I can't wait to see her tomorrow. We'll be covering her show live. Jocelyn Nash, here in the Bay Area, the pioneering, legendary San Francisco Bay sailor. And I don't think this is in honor of anything in particular, National Women's Month or the Women's Day, or she's just a hell of a good sailor and apparently a great gal. Tomorrow at St. Francis Yacht Club, the Wednesday yachting luncheon live streamed on their Facebook page. We do that at 12:30 Pacific. Finally, I want to congratulate our longtime friend. Anybody identify this gentleman? Probably many of you can. Certainly Richard Gladwell can, Dick Anderson, Peter Houston, any of you, John Sangmeister, who have been involved in the Cup. Yes, it's Ken McAlpine from Perth, Western Australia. He has been named to the America's Cup Hall of Fame, and very deservedly so. Kenny is a longtime friend. After he helped with measurement in the 80s in the 12-meter game, in fact, he's the one who measured, Ken measured and blessed Australia 2's wing keel. Well, some people didn't think that was so well done, but I think it was the proper decision. Ken did that and helped with the measurement with the late, great Tony Watts from IYRU, who was measuring the boats in '87. And then I hired Ken when I was running the Cup in San Diego to be the chief measurer for '88 and '92. And he carried on from there and has been involved in the measurement of virtually every America's Cup. He may have missed one or two in there, but he also was the measurer this last time in Bermuda for the 2017 America's Cup last year for AC 35. Great guy. Very deserved nomination to the Hall of Fame. He will be I don't want to say inducted in the America's Cup Hall of Fame sometime later this year. They're getting that together to John Marshall and a couple other folks that were nominated last year. They're going to have one big session. Ken McAlpine, congratulations. Okay, that's it for our live show, Tuesdays with TFE. Thank you for joining us. We'll do it again next week, same time, same channel. And in the meantime, sail fast, sail safely, and have fun. Thank you.